Greetings, 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 and welcome to another episode of Nutritional Knit, where we are challenging norms, healing families, and doing better together. I'm Denitra Davis, your ACE advocate, coach, and educator. And today's episode is titled Reaper Effect. Ripple effect, knit together in healing, bound by truth. We are telling the truth about how one woman's healing has changed the lives of so many others across families, workplaces, and even state lines. So, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to thank each of you that joined on last week. And just a quick recap, we did celebrating my heir, a healing inheritance. It was my son's 31st birthday, and we opened the door to our healing journey and reminding ourselves of how we have been healing together. And so we continue to encourage you to do the same thing with your family. When you get a chance, let's watch the replay. All right. So on tonight, this evening, I should say, I'm trying to make sure I have all things going. This is still very new for me. And so I'm still finding my way. So on tonight, I live in Madison County, which is in Tennessee. And Tennessee, Jackson, Madison County is where I live. I'm from the Memphis area. However, I've been in Jackson for the last 6 years. I actually came here as a part of my healing journey just to find a way to get better. What I've learned is that our health statistics in Jackson are not the best. And so we have about 38% of Madison County that lives with obesity. 1 in 3 Americans we know are pre-diabetic, and most of them don't even know it. And if you are pre-diabetic, you are definitely insulin resistant. And most hospital visits are something that's preventable. We could prevent these things and not have these hospital visits. And we really believe that there is this gap in knowledge. And if we ate real food, then things would be different. Yet we're still being told to trust prepackaged foods, low fat, high carb snacks, and sugar filled shakes. We're walking around sick, ravenous, and confused, and then blaming ourselves for it. And I just kind of want to take a moment to set the core for nutritional knowledge in terms of our desire to help people recognize that insulin resistance is a real thing and that insulin resistance is reversible. Yes, it is reversible. What do I mean by reversible? I mean that you don't have to have it. However, insulin resistance is having a huge impact on your life, even if you're not pre-diabetic, if you're not diabetic, insulin resistance still has a high impact. So you may see things like fatigue, belly fat, skin tags, PCOS, high blood pressure, and more. But the healing is possible, and it doesn't start with medication. It starts with what's on your plate, what you believe, and what you do every day. Your body wants to heal. It just needs to stop feeding it lies. And so today I am privileged, as we talk about this title of Ripple Effect, I am privileged to have two awesome, three actually guests with me on today. And we're going to dive into their story, how we came to meet, and also how they have been on their healing journey. And so again, remember, this is all very new to me, but I am going to bring up Janet Gore.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Gore. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Thank you
Good.
so much
Yeah.
for being here, being on this journey, and allowing me to be on this journey with you. So, Miss Gore, now just a little background. Miss Gore and I met. She's an educator here in our city, and we had an event back in 2023. So, Miss Gore, this is year 2 for your journey. Actually was June the 9th. So we're past actually. You're at your 2-year mark of your journey of when you came to our brunch and learn to learn more about how to heal, how to become healthy, and how to, bust up some of the myths that we have been hearing. So if you could just give us a little background about you and how you showed up at this event in the first place.
Okay, a little bit about me. As you said, I'm a wife, a mother, and an educator. I found out about the event through your husband, Mr. Sam Davis. At that time, we worked at the same school, and I was not aware of nutritional knowledge. Had no, I mean, just other than hearing from him. And he kept talking about, the things that you guys were doing, the lifestyle, what you guys were eating, what you were not eating. And at that time, full transparency, I loved a donut, and I loved a cherry Coke, and I loved Pepsi. And when Mr. Davis would see me eating those things, he would tell me that I had no idea what I was doing to my body. And he was correct. I had no idea, no clue as to what damage I was causing by the things that I was putting into my body, not every day, but weekly. So that's how I found out about nutritional knowledge. Mr. Davis invited me and some coworkers to attend. And I think I might have been the only coworker at that time that showed up. So that's how I found out about.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
remember so distinctly when you were there, it was really just the support. I mean, that's who you are
Correct.
as a administrator, as a principal, working with someone. If they have something going on, then you show up, right? Never thinking that it would have this major impact on your own life. And so we appreciate you coming, right? And how
Absolutely.
it has changed your journey, because our goal has been just to shed light, bring information. Sometimes it's not popular. We don't have all our T's crossed, all our I's dotted, but we keep showing up to just share information. And on that day, we did have about there may have been about 17 people in the room. We had good food, because one of the things that we always want to do in our events is to make sure that the people eat good, because one of the main things we're talking about is food. And so people are like, yeah, we're going to have a whole lot of salads, a lot of low fat stuff. And so that part is unattractive to people. And so we try to bring our food choices so that people can see that you will not be deprived when you start to make these switches. And so talk a little bit about what you learned on that day that struck you and kind of help you go in some different directions.
One of the things that I learned was how some of the foods that we eat have no nutritional value. And one of the key things that I walked away with was Chick-fil-A and the ingredients that are being put in the foods. Because Chick-fil-A was my go-to, the nuggets and the waffle fries. And, but once you shared what they put in and how those things are cooked, that was an eye opener. And then just how there are tests and different types of lab work, things that we should be aware of. I didn't know those numbers. I didn't know what an A1C was. I didn't know anything about insulin other than when you have family members who take insulin or take shots. But as far as me being aware of my body and what I was putting into it and how it made an effect on my body, I had no knowledge of those things. And so that was as an educator and even as a mother, you take responsibility for those things because you need to know, and it's not up for someone else to tell you. You need to be your biggest advocate and, take that initiative to find out.
Absolutely. And so you're right. During that time, I was very heavy. I'm still heavy on it about learning your A1C, making sure you get your labs. And so the session that I did that day was technically called Know Your Numbers, and
Mhm.
making sure you understand what your numbers mean. Because many times what happens is we go back and forth to the doctor and things are in the green. And, doctors are like, well, I'm not alarmed by this. Let's watch it. Let's give it some time. And so I know for you during that time, it was the end of the year. And if I remember correctly, and as I said, this is year 2 for you, I think you consistently have your annual scheduled toward the end of the year, getting ready to go into the new year. So if you can talk about, you already had an annual scheduled. And you didn't schedule the annual as a result of the meeting, but you did change the way you did some things when you were at the doctor. So you asked for, you were there advocating, asking for something different than your typical annual. So talk to us a little about how that went for you.
When I was at the doctor and I started asking these questions, he asked me, like, where is this coming from? Like, why is this a concern, or why are you wanting or requesting this particular lab or test? And yeah, and it was caught him off guard that I was advocating for myself. And so I might be jumping fast forward, Denitra,
It's
because
okay.
there
No,
were
it's
two
all good.
appointments. But once the lab work came back, my A1C was a 6.5 at that time. It was high. And, he wanted to, full transparency. He said, I'm going to give you some medicine. The people in Hollywood are taking it and it's going to help you lose weight. He couldn't even give me the name of that medication. It was just, I'm going to prescribe you something. You're going to take it. It's going to help your A1C and you're going to lose weight. Well, what is it? And then he did say we needed to continue to monitor, but he didn't. And again, after speaking with Denitra, there was no monitor given. Like, he didn't give me a glucose monitor or tell me to go and get one and check it weekly or whatever. None of that was prescribed or even talked about. Neither did we talk about my diet. He didn't ask me what I consumed. None of that came up. So you just have to take the initiative and ask these questions. But to me, the key was, first, you have to know what you're asking. So that's why when I first met Denitra, I would always tell her, you got to let the people know, because we don't know,
Yeah.
And Denitra, every time you and I had a conversation, it was, you got to tell the people, because we don't know these things. These aren't things, unless you're in a health, field, or have people that are in your family that are doctors. We don't go, and I say we, African-American women, or just not necessarily African-American women, just mothers, because we're so busy taking care of everybody else and making sure that everything else is done. We don't always ask these questions about our own health.
Absolutely. And so one of the things just reflected for me, what I remember is you came to the event and you went to the doctor, and then you immediately, when you got your results back, I think you reached out to Sam, Mr. Davis, and you were like, I had no idea. I don't know, but they said I'm pre-diabetic. What do I do? Right. And so then you and I met at the famous coffee place.
Yes.
And had a just a sit down consultation. But I remember, like, you just not this distraught in a way that speaks to like this anxiety, but just kind of this epiphany. Like, I went to this event to be a support, right? Not knowing that I was going to learn something there. And then I'm going to my doctor to ask for these numbers. Like, it ain't going to be me, but I'm going to do it anyway, since they said I ought to do it, to only come out on the other side with a diagnosis that had you in a pre-diabetic range, right? And so
Correct.
you were like, I got to turn this around. What I need to do? Like, I was listening at the thing, but now I really need to know, what do I need to do?
Correct.
And so, and one of the things that has struck me on your journey, like I said, you're 2 years in, and I'm going to show some pictures here in a second about your journey. But just watching you over the time get serious. And I don't know if you remember, like, even for me having that conversation, like, so many revelations were coming because you just had so many good questions, right? You were so eager to learn what I mean, you had your notepad, you had your note taking, you were circling things, and even though we were at Starbucks, shout out to Starbucks, even that day, we were able to switch up some things that you still continue to do today that is helping you along the journey. So the question that I want to ask you next, and then I'm going to share some pictures of you, is what started to change for you? So we talked about Chick-fil-A, and I say this out loud. I don't mean it as disrespect to Chick-fil-A, but I do recommend that people read the ingredients when you're eating at Chick-fil-A. I know that it's a chicken place, and we've been told that chicken is, low fat, it's better for you. And I know the people at Chick-fil-A have been trained to be really nice. However, what we know is that it is still a fast food restaurant that uses very poor ingredients that can wreak havoc. And so what you hear Ms. Gore saying is like, I made some simple changes in a sense that changed everything just by not going to Chick-fil-A. People talk bad about some of the other fast food restaurants, but how that started to make a change. So if you can talk about some of the things that you did differently.
One of the things that I did differently was my Starbucks drink that day. I normally will order a caramel macchiato, and you were at the counter with me, and you told them, no, don't give her that. Give her a blonde roast with heavy cream and sugar-free vanilla. And when I tell you, it tastes exactly like a caramel macchiato, but just not as sweet. It does. So that was one of the changes. And then I used to enjoy ice cream, Bluebell to be exact, homemade vanilla. And then not just ice cream, but cakes and pies and all the things that aren't the best. So I started changing what I put inside my mouth. And then when I would go to the grocery store, I started changing what I put in my basket. Because and another thing that Denitra shared with me, if I don't buy it, I won't eat it. If you don't bring it in, if you don't put it in your basket, you won't bring it home. So just changing that. And again, just being aware of the ingredients. So that was my main thing that I did. And then also trying to do things in my home, like with my son. I haven't at this time, he's 11 now, but husband and son were very supportive and behind me. So the things that they saw me doing, they would eat the food and not be so gung-ho on me buying the Oreo cookies and all the things that we know we don't need. So support from my family was very important as well. And I know we'll talk about this later, but even my brother, has made some changes in his life as well. So just being aware of the ingredients and not buying things that we know aren't good for us. Those were the changes that I made. And then incorporating my water instead of that cherry Coke or that Pepsi that I love to drink.
Yep. And so what are some of the foods that you feel like you are no longer having that you don't miss, that you appreciate your health over those things?
I don't miss the ice cream. I don't miss all the sweets. So that would be my main thing. All the sugary things that I used to enjoy eating. Now and please know, if you see me coming out of Maggie Moo's, I still go there from time to time. I don't eat. I'm not saying that I don't eat sugar at all, because there are some times that my family, we do celebrate certain things, and Maggie Moo's is a place that we enjoy, especially my son. And Dairy Queen is a place that my husband enjoys, because he likes Blizzard. So we still do those. I just don't do it as often. And then the size that I would normally get, I just kind of cut that down. So just different things like that.
Right. So, and all of those things are important. And so this is why I tell people that this is not about perfection. It's not about, I can't figure out, I'm learning, y'all. So I got some things going on with the camera. And Robin, I know you're there. If you can maybe help me with the pictures in the background, if you're still there. And I'm trying to figure out how to put us together. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going. So making those changes has been transformational for you. They're showing up in the back, Robin, but I was trying to see how to get them so they come on the side of us, where our faces are still there. Yeah, thanks for being patient with me learning this system. And Robin, thank you for being here, helping me out with this. And so Miss Gore, I'm trying to get the pictures of, that's one that we can see that's in the backdrop, but I want to be able to show it differently, and it's not allowing us to do that. So I don't know, maybe because it's in the background, Robin, versus just being a picture. Yeah, I'm not sure how to get it, but this is a picture of Miss Gore, just for the record. That's a picture of Miss Gore. That's a before and after of her. Miss Gore, do you remember what year the left side is on? The left side?
I don't.
Okay.
I think it was a Father's Day event, if I'm not mistaken, because I think my dad is cropped out of that picture, and Brian might have been 5 or 6. So it's at least 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay. And then let's see if this one had this one. This one shows up much better.
Yes. Yes.
So this is a before and an after of you as well. And we continue to refer to this as inflammation, because that's one of the things that Ms. Gore learned, is that what was happening in her body with this prediabetes, insulin resistant, having a high A1C, is that she was inflamed. And so when we look at the face on one side and then the other, you can just see where this high inflammation is happening for her. And just changing that, it has been a world of good. And so something I want to just discuss a little bit before we go to our other two guests that are here is that one of the things that I have noticed is that when I'm having events and people in our city see your transformation, I get these mixed reviews about what's happening. So I've been posting your pictures places, we've used them in events. And what has happened is people will assume because you've lost weight, I get this whole concept around, one lady came to an event and she said, "Oh, Miss Gore has worked with you." And I was like, "Yeah, she has." She's like, "I saw her somewhere. I didn't say anything. I thought she was sick and I didn't want to be offensive." Right. And so people have been referring to you as sick. You've gotten you're too skinny, and are you on the shot? Are you on the pill? So let's talk a little bit about how none of those things are true, right? That this knowledge that you've gained has been the deal maker for you.
Correct. And sad to say this, but it's reality. Church folk can be so cruel. And I shared this with you, Denitra. One Sunday I was walking in church and this older lady who I thought had some, I don't know the words, so I'm just going to, I didn't think she would say what she said, but she said if I lost any more weight, I was going to fly away or something. It was to the effect that I was too skinny. But when I was walking around here looking like I was 6 months pregnant and my child was 6, I mean, you didn't have anything positive to say or encouraging to say. And now that I've done the work, you still making these sly comments. So to the people who are trying and who are on the journey, just know that stuff is going to happen. But as long as you know what you did, and it's going to be, the biggest benefit is you being healthy and well. And that's the main component. But just know on the journey, people are going to say things and talk about you behind your back and all those things. Now, also know, and I was telling my husband this last night, I think if I had to have a shot, like if I had to get on this medicine, like I couldn't, if the doctor said this is what you have to do or you're going to pass away, yeah, I would do it. But please know you can do it without the shots, without the pills and the surgery. But it does take commitment. So on the journey, people will say things and talk about you and, look at you and all that, but just push it to the side, let it roll off, and just keep doing what's best for you and what's making you well. And I'm sure you will see that you're also going to feel better, because I did. I was able to do more things outside with my child. And that's what's important. And I remember, I know I'm going back to Nitra, but
Okay.
when we were at Starbucks, you asked me, what is my why? And I shared with you that my mom was sick, like diabetic, passed away, kidney, all the things. And I didn't want that for my child. I don't want Brian to see me the way that I saw my mom. So that was another reason, not just for me, because I love Janet, but I also love my family and my child. So that was my why. And I want to go on vacation, and I don't want to be a bother to him, not a bother, but a burden to him. I want to be able to walk. I want to, be able to sit in the airplane with just one seatbelt, all the things that you see people being wheelchaired around. You don't want that for yourself. And if you have children and family, you don't want that for them either. So just make the commitment. You can do it, just take the steps, and just know that it's a journey and a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But, and I will say, Denitra has been, you saved my life. I mean, I'm just going to be honest, because sometimes I'm in the grocery store and I will call you and say, now, what is this? This is, can I get this? So just know that Knewtritional Knowledge and Denitra is here. We'll be there for you, and just every step of the way. So just make that commitment, and just don't give up, and don't listen to what other people say, because you're doing this for you so that you're healthy and well.
I appreciate that, and I still struggle with the Miss Gore thing. So sorry, I haven't flipped all the way over to the Janet, but it has been amazing watching you go through your journey, your diligence to reach out, and that speaks to this community bill, right? And that it's not, while you did name what happened with your mom, right? And I don't know if you remember this, but when you first came in, you were taking ownership of, we knew better, and we just didn't, and we should have. And I stopped you right there. I was like, no, you did not know better. There was no way that you could know what you know now and still proceed, which is why we exist, is because that's the whole play on words of nutritional knowledge, because it is deeply rooted in just not knowing, right? And so when you get this information, this knowledge, and understand how the food or food products are impacting your body, you just have no choice but to try to make a change. And I think one of the things that we talked about with your son is that he likes going to Sonic. And I was like, just don't let him have a bun. You don't have to say if he eats the bun or not now. But I was like, just give him more of the hot dogs, right? Because the bun is a utensil. It is sheetrock, right? Can we skip that, right? So it is these little switches that we can make that make a huge impact on how we move forward. And so I want to turn now and talk to you a little bit about this relative in Texas who started to see some changes and was like, you ain't leaving me behind.
Yes, my brother.
No sibling left behind.
Yes, my brother too saw the changes in me, and ask questions. And so I told him, that he needed to reach out to you. And so once you guys connected, he started making little changes. And I remember him calling. He was like, he calls me Jan, my glasses are falling off my face. I'm losing weight in my face. And I told him, I said, it's inflammation. You were swollen. So, yes. And then first it was like changes in his face, and then his pants. And so all those things. But again, he reached out and he took the steps and made little changes that needed to be made. And so now he wanted to be, I can't remember, it was something by 50. Did he want to lose 50 pounds by 50?
He wanted to be fit by 40. He missed 40. And I told him, I said, well, it's a good thing that 50 starts with an F, because now you can be fit by 50.
Right.
He did it, right?
He did, yes.
His birthday was in December?
Yes, December, and he met his goal. Like, he set a goal, and again, he knew what needed to be done to meet that goal, and he did. So again, shout out to Denitra for just being there, just being that constant reminder of the little things that we need to do that can make big changes and have big impact on our health. So yes.
Absolutely. So it was a joy to meet him over the phone. And I will say almost 2 years in, like I still have not met him in person. But this again speaks to the impact on just the power of knowledge, the power of one, the power of this ripple effect that we're talking about. So, Sam being at the school, right, doing what he does each day, bringing his black bag of food, what he's going to eat, what he's not going to eat. No, I'm not participating in that. And just watching him incrementally change, pique this curiosity. Well, let me go see. Now they're doing an event. Let me show up at an event. And another one of your coworkers allowed us to use a facility. Shout out to Johnny Dodd for that. And so we were able to use the facility, invite people in, and now here you come inside this space of support, and then learning, now reaching out to your brother. So it doesn't stop there, because we did say this is a ripple effect. And so you've been able to recommend multiple people over these 2 years, just out of care. Sometimes, because my motto is, if I see something, I say something, right? And so I'm known for that. But that's the same thing that you're doing. You're seeing, this is what we say, that insulin resistance doesn't have a size, but it does have a look. In that we are walking around as friends, co-workers, where we are knowing that people are not well. They are carrying this excess weight. Their eyes are dark. Their ankles are swole, and we are acting like these things are normal, or we are afraid of body shaming, if you will. But really, you all don't know the courage that it takes to say something. And so I just want to applaud Ms. Gore for having that courage, because I've had multiple phone calls. Everybody's not ready to show up in a space like this to share their story. But hear me when I say that she has touched multiple lives right here in our city, where people, I see them posting like, I'm down 10 pounds, I've lost 7 pounds. Like, they ain't said nothing, right? But they are seeing this evidence of Miss Gore. So shout out to your brother for the changes that he's made in his life. And he had we did lab work for him. It's the most important thing, guys. If you don't hear anything else that we're saying, is get your labs done. If you don't know what labs, reach out and let's help you figure out what labs you need to advocate for. But I want to turn a corner, because Miss Gore shifted and is leading in the school district, and has some colleagues that she's been working with, and we're going to pop them up one at a time. One of them is Carolyn Rainer. I'm about to pull you up to the screen. Here we go.
Hi.
So adding Miss Rainer, I don't know how to make this. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna learn this stuff, y'all. So Miss Rainer works with Miss Gore, and just a little background, she was a referral. I got a phone call about meeting with her, and so Miss Rainer, if you want to talk about your call out to me and us having a sit and chat, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Miss Rainer. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and how you entered into this space.
I was working with Miss Gore at Lane. I had seen her previous years. I kept looking. She's losing weight. What's she doing? And I kept looking. And one day, if you don't ask, you don't know. So I asked her, and she give me your number. And I called, and we met at Starbucks. And ironically, you said that we sit at the same table that you and Miss Gore sit at the day that you met with her.
We did.
And it was interesting and eye-opening, because I like ice cream. I like sweet. I can do without the bread, but I like sweets. And you was telling me about the sugar. Would you put sugar in your car? No. You told me what bread was. I don't eat it very much anyway, so that's good. And I thought about how her transformation went with her. As if she can do it, I can do it. And now when I go to the store, I look at pasta, I look at bread, and I come out with just a little, what I need, what I want. And I think people think I live off eggs, because every time I go to the store, I'm buying eggs. But anyway, long story short, I was at the track the other day, one morning, and the lady that I went to New York with was walking the track as well. We spoke. She said, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "Get my steps in." You already skinny enough. I said, "Healthy." Thank you very much.
That's
Healthy.
right.
And on the trip to New York, and several, when I went out one night with some friends of mine. We took pictures, and a close friend of mine, I didn't know who that was on that picture, and I looked at it. I didn't know either. I didn't like me. My face was puffy. My clothes, I didn't like the way they fit. And that picture,
Wow.
June 2024, was in New York. There was once, it wasn't very many pictures I was on in New York. I took pictures of everyone else because I didn't like the way I looked. I was puffy. I told somebody I looked like Pac-Man. And now that I'm on this journey, I love it.
Wow.
I don't think I would go back because I don't like what I see on this picture versus what I see in May of this year. And I love it. I feel better. I'm working in my yard like somebody's man, I guess. That's what I'm doing today, working in my garage. But I have more energy and I feel better about myself inward and outward. And I do.
And I'm so excited for you because I just will say, I can say it now out loud that you've lost almost 30 pounds since we met the first time in September. Y'all, Miss Rainer wasn't easy. Miss Rainer was looking upside my head like this lady is crazy. And if this is what Janet did, I don't know about it, right?
I did. I thought, I said, wait a minute now.
She was a deep skeptic. But I will say this: what Miss Rainer did was she stayed in touch. She stayed asking questions. She stayed wanting to know, okay, I'm trying this, I'm trying that. And so the ripple that I want you guys to see here is that, so we start with in Sam. I got Sam on the journey early in. Sam went to school on the journey. Miss Gore took the journey. Miss Gore's brother now is stretching out into the school, right? It's starting to take effect at work. And again, these are the two, and Miss Wellington's going to come up soon. These are the two that we have here, but these ain't all the changes in the transformations that we've seen as a result, again, of this ripple. But Miss Rainer has been so steadfast because I also do cooking classes. So I've had 2 cooking classes, and Miss Gore must don't know Miss Rainer. You haven't told her that she can still have her ice cream. You haven't made ice cream for Miss Gore?
Know it. She know it.
I know.
For a long time, Miss Rainer had tasted my ice cream, but she had not had a chance to get it for herself. And so we had a class. And so now Miss Rainer has her own ice cream maker.
Exactly,
she makes her own ice cream. She knows how to get out and make her own ice cream. What am I saying here when we talk about lifestyle changes? This is what we mean. We could do this for a lifetime. The ice cream that we're having now, we could have it for a lifetime because it's not impacting blood sugar. We all still fine, but we eat ice cream when we want ice cream, right? We have just switched the ingredients. And so I teased Miss Rainer about her picture because I told her, you're gonna mess around and get a boyfriend, girl, right?
Send me one, girl.
Send her one, right? So, but this just goes to show those pictures were 1 year difference. If you go to our website, you'll see some other pictures, some incremental pictures of Miss Rainer. But what I'm saying to you guys is that this ripple effect is real. And so I often say to Miss Gore, because she'll say to people, you just need to call Denitra. And I tell her, I said, some people don't understand what they're calling for. They don't know what is it going to be. And what I will say is everybody's journey is different. How Miss Gore entered into this space looked different from the way that Miss Rainer entered into this space, how I've entered into this space. And so Miss Rainer, talk about a little bit about how you are influencing others.
I went to a funeral in Mississippi a couple of months ago, and my sister-in-law had multiple problems. She had arthritis. She had several surgeries, and she wanted to know, she's Carolyn, what you do? and I give her your information. I don't know if she ever contacted you or not. And I told her it works. And she told me, and I told her about you have to change your eating habits, water. She said, you don't go to the gym. I said, no, I haven't been to the gym in about 2 years, honey. And she really, I wish she would reach out to you.
We will work on getting that. What I like is that you cannot go in this transformed body and people not notice, right? This
Exactly.
becomes a
Exactly.
light to people for them to know that change is possible. What
It
that
is.
change is and how they manage that change may look different, but we know that change is possible because we have living, walking testimonies right here that are proof in the pudding. So, Ms. Rainer, talk to us a little bit about what you're eating in a day. Like, what does it look like? Because I hear conversations about what it looks like when you bring something to school now. So, talk about what you're eating each day and why that works for you.
Bacon, egg, steak, pork chops, protein, protein and water. Every now and then I backslide and eat a little something I'm not supposed to, but I flush it out. I get my water. I get on my water. If I know I'm not supposed to have it, I go to my water.
Right. And one of the things too around like backsliding or choosing something that's not optimal for us. I think the difference in the spaces that we're in now is that we recognize that those things are not um prime, right, premium for our health. So even as Ms. Gore mentioned, I may stop at Maggie Moo's, I may have this, but what we were doing before was thinking that we were eating in a way that was going to keep us healthy, right? We were thinking that it's not that bad. We were thinking that there was something wrong with us, that we were broken, versus being able to see that it wasn't us, it was the things that we were choosing that were giving us no nutritional value. And so even for you, the calls that I get or the text messages, if you're looking for a different type of sweetener or you're looking for electrolytes, I mean, we've gotten way down to what type of salt, right? That we're
Exactly.
going to have, because we have to know that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are the luxury item that's been created. When you mentioned earlier about putting sugar in our tank, so because we're a luxury item, then we want to make sure that we are eating in a way that keeps our body healthy. And so now I'm going to bring to the stage, thank you, Ms. Rainer, for being here. But you have a friend that you've been influencing, and so I'm going to let you introduce her as I bring her to the stage, but I'm trying to make sure she's going to be on camera. Miss Wellington, we're looking for you next to come up, because I don't see her face on the camera yet. So I don't know if she had to step away. But I'll let you introduce her, Miss Rainer.
Is she okay?
Yeah.
Miss Wellington. She's a teacher retired teacher at Isaac Lane, and I had invited her to an event at Isaac Lane. I'm gonna come just to be nosy, see what they're talking about. Like, come on. And when the very day that when it was over with, we was talking. She said, "You gonna do it?" I said, "Sure." I said, "I started already." I said, "But now I have a better insight of what I'm supposed to do and what I can and can't do." And so she got on. She joined. We walked in there together. We walked out together, and I am so proud of her on the picture that your husband took at Isaac Lane.
Yes.
And then we had taken pictures in the hallway. I think it was breast cancer back in October.
Yes. I'm going to
And
show
I said, Miss Wellington, look at you.
Yes.
One day I walked in, she said, "Hey, Skinny." I said, "Hi, Skinny, how are you?" But I got to tell you this. One day I wore some pants to work, and I was walking around there, and she was looking. She said, "Right, now, that's what? Don't wear those pants back up here more. Those pants too big." So she had me going. I had to go out every other week and buy a pair of pants because everything was too big. I told her, I said, "I got enough pants now. I can wear. I can go 5-6 days a week without wearing pants that's too big." I love her, Miss Wellington.
Hey, Miss Wellington, we still can't see you on the camera, dear. I'm not sure what happened. I see your volume. So I'll share a little bit about Miss Wellington while she's trying to get her camera going. So yes, as we talk about this community evolution, so we've continued to have events, and we were able to sponsor an event at Isaac Lane, which is Miss Gore School, and we are grateful for that. And we were able to have Dr. Ken Berry to come in person. For any of you that know Dr. Ken Berry, if you don't know him, look him up, check him out. And Dr. Tony Hampton joined us. Tony Hampton is a board certified physician in the Chicago area. And Dr. Berry, if you just follow Dr. Berry, he has almost 4 million followers. So we were grateful for him to come. And at the event, he happened to sit with, there you are. He happened to sit, yes. Welcome, Miss Wellington.
I don't know what happened. A call was coming in and messed up.
It's all good. Thank you for being here. So Ms. Wellington was sitting near Dr. Berry in this session, and they were having this whole conversation because at the time, Ms. Wellington wasn't a meat eater. She was being told in her life that meat wasn't healthy for her, and so she had stopped eating meat. So Ms. Wellington, welcome to the stage. And thank you for joining. Thank you for being on this journey and being impacted by these ladies right in your school. Talk to us about what made you say yes. We already know they said you was just gonna come and be nosy. So in your nosy, what did your nosy yield you? What did you learn, Ms. Wellington?
Exactly. I was coming to be nosy. I said, what is going on? I'm being nosy listening to them. Say, did you get your ticket? Did you get your ticket? I got my ticket. I said, what are they talking about? Ticket to what? No one asked me about buying a ticket. So I said, okay, I'm going to be nosy and ask Miss Rainer what's going on. And so she told me about they were having this function. I said, okay. So she gave me the link to buy my ticket, and I did. When I got there, still not knowing what was going on, I got there and I said, when they started eating, I said, oh my gosh, all this meat. I'm not able to eat this. I'm not calling myself a little low vegan. Can't eat this. So I have nothing here to eat. And so it went on through the program. When they got finished with the program that night, went straight and got me some meat to eat before I went home. That was the end of that journey. And I have not looked back. It has been a very, very rewarding. I have not lost, I've lost weight before, but not in this manner. And kept it off this long.
Yeah. So Miss Rainer wasn't a meat. One of the topics that day was the problem with plants. And so a lot of times in the mainstream, we've been told that, plants are the healthiest way for us to eat, as long as it's in the plant family. And basically, as long as it's not meat, then we're good. We can have it. And so Miss Wellington, in her journey to be better, she this is what I'm choosing to do. And so there's nothing here because remember, we do provide food, but it is heavy on the meats when we're there. But Miss Wellington tickled me because she was like, as soon as I left, I think you said you had a steak, or did you get a burger?
Got some chicken.
Okay. Chicken. And so I'm going to try to pull up pictures of Miss Rainer in her journey. Let me go here. All right. I don't think let's see. Okay. So this is Miss Rainer. If you look at the top left-hand corner, Wellington, sorry. Thank y'all for helping me with that. Miss Wellington. Oh, and Dr. Hampton is here on the show tonight. All right. Dr. Hampton, you should be proud. Miss Wellington, this was the November 9th Lunch and Learn. This is a picture of Miss Wellington at this Lunch and Learn. And these are pictures of her just a little while ago in May. In October, this was her at a breast cancer function at their school. And you can just see incrementally over to January how she has transitioned her health, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, oh my God, just making a sound decision about what she can do differently in her life. And so part of that difference was having some meat. And so we are So glad that she is now a meat eater. But Miss Wellington, what do you think in the meeting that day just really stuck out to you that said, when I leave here, I'm going to do something different? Before you answer, I just kind of want to set this up where I walk in the space of being a carnivore. I own that, right? Carnivore-ish. Miss Gore will tell you she is not a carnivore, right? She doesn't just eat meat and meat products, right? Miss Rainer has her way of eating. What we all know is that sugar in any form, whether in any plant-based, whether it's oatmeal, whether it's broccoli, whether it's a Snicker bar, we know that all these are sugar. And so what the goal really is to figure out how to have as less sugar as possible. Does that mean that you're not going to have a steak and maybe a salad sometime? What we know in this group, though, is that our salad is never going to be bigger than our protein. We're going to prioritize our proteins, right? And so, Miss Wellington, what do you think was the thing that really struck a chord and said, I'm going to go and try this?
The fact that my body was in pain all while I was not eating meat. I was aching all over. No one never knew it because I never showed it. But I can see the difference now. I don't have any pain. I jump out of bed in the morning with no pain. And I felt, when they said that vegetables turn to metabolize in your body as sugar. And I said, okay, I'm going to cut back on stop eating all these vegetables and see what happens. And I have stopped eating those vegetables and I feel great.
Wow.
And I can
Wow.
feel that. I feel wonderful. I'm not kidding. I used to have a lot of pain, a lot of indigestion issues, and arthritis on the side. Don't have those things anymore.
Wow. And so this is the whole key, guys, around healing, right? It is that we are sick, right? When I read the statistics earlier about us being insulin resistant and not wanting to own that or keep saying things like, I have a touch of sugar, right? And not really being able to acknowledge that this, what we're suffering with and have been suffering with, is sickness. So you're looking at 4 ladies on the screen, different backgrounds, different journeys, not all looking the same, but we all have made a change, right? And we know now that the culprit has been carbohydrates.
Mhm.
Carbohydrates are a saccharide, and saccharides are a sugar, right? And so we have to take control. And so I have watched these ladies on their journey. Miss Rainer, I met first in September of last year, and then I met Miss Wellington in November. Miss Wellington is down at the last time we checked in May was 47 pounds. I think Miss Rainer is down almost 30 pounds. Miss Gore has lost almost 50 pounds. And so if we add all of this up, right, between us, we were carrying 2 or 3 people on us. Nothing but inflammation. Nothing but inflammation. Individually being sick. And that's why we have nutritional knowledge, nutritional knit, is because we can do better together. We can heal together. So you have ladies that are working in the same building. And again, I'm going to keep reinforcing that this wasn't necessarily all the people that have been impacted, because I've gotten calls from district folks that have made changes. I've gotten calls from other teachers, other assistants that are in this same space in Madison County that are doing their best to make a change, just like we have made a change. I do want to shout Miss Wellington out on being 42 years in education and just recently retiring. Whoop, 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 whoop,
Yes,
whoop.
yes, yes.
Right? And what a beautiful thing to take into retirement. Not the aches, not the pains, not the I can't no more, or, I'm just going home to, because it hurt too bad. Now you have a whole new lease, a whole new trajectory in the way that you can go relative to just, you can walk when you want to walk, you can eat when you want to eat, you can go to the restroom when you want to go to the restroom. Y'all got everything. And we know about not being able to go to the restroom. And so I'm just super grateful for each one of you, your journey, each text message you've made, each call. Miss Wellington also has been to cooking classes. She knows how to do ice cream. Her and Miss Rainer came. We did a chaffle, so they've learned about chaffles and how to make chaffles, how to make tacos, and how to do pizzas. It's not that you have to be deprived. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Knewtritional Knowledge, is that there is no deprivation, right? What we have to figure out is how to switch to better so that we can still enjoy it. So I'm super grateful for each one of you being here. Again, shout out to Dr. Hampton for showing up with us this evening and being an instrumental part of for all three of these ladies' lives from a distance. Again, the ripple effect. Dr. Hampton is way in Chicago, but he showed up on November the 9th for us. And so a couple of things I want to do today, because we know tomorrow, and happy Father's Day to you, Dr. Hampton. We know that Father's Day is tomorrow. And so we kind of want to take this as an opportunity to, as women here that are impactful in the lives of men, whether it's our son. Last week I had my son on. I spent a lot of time with my father. And so I want to just know from you ladies tonight, is there someone that you want to shout out today for Father's Day? And Ms. Gore, if you want to go first.
Sure. I would like to shout out my husband, John Gore, my father, J.B. Robinson, my brother, Reggie Robinson. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying names or not, but okay. And then to my educator fathers, like Mr. Davis, Mr. Dodd, Mr. Shaw, all the people who have made an impact on the lives of children who may not have a present positive father in the home. So happy Father's Day to all of you.
All right.
All right.
All right, Miss Wellington.
Well, my father's no longer with us, but I would like to shout out all of my family, guys in my family who are fathers, who are doing a great job. Happy Father's Day to you guys.
Thank you. Miss Rainer.
I would just like to wish all fathers, wherever, happy Father's Day. My father is deceased as well, but happy Father's Day. Have a blessed day.
All right. And so for me, I want to shout out my husband, Sam Davis, my father, Jerome Payne, as well as my brothers, Demar and Marcus. I have two brothers. My brother-in-laws, Anthony and Donald. Happy Father's Day to my nephews. I have a slew of nephews and cousins. This is a special time. Often men don't get the attention that they deserve on Father's Day. And so we want to make sure that we take the opportunity to shout them out. And what we really can do for them, ladies, and my husband brought this up to me, is help our men get their labs. We know men are not, eager to go to the doctor and do their labs, but we have an opportunity to influence them. And so let's use our influence while we are doing better to help the men in our lives do better. So we want to be the ones that are saying something to men about, if nothing else, get your lab so you can know your baseline. We know here that those labs and those baselines, they made a difference for us. And so we just want to ask that you do the same for the men. I want to thank you, ladies, for being here, for being candid, for being transparent, for sharing your journey, with the hopes that someone else may hear your story. May, even in your school, you may be able to share with them this video if they're wondering, like, what is it that you all are doing that's making a difference. The sad thing for me, for each one of you, that most of you said, is that there is this thing that says you must be sick, you've lost too much, like stop losing, you're gonna disappear. I've heard those same things. And what I say is troubling to me is when we were sick, no one was saying anything.
Exactly.
When we weren't healthy, no one was saying anything. And now that we're on a trajectory to being optimally healed, now we're being met with people who have the courage now to say something, right? And so I would just continue to encourage you ladies to keep your courage up, stay on your journey, know that the changes that you've made are a lifestyle change that you can do for a lifetime. That means that this is something that you can continue to do. Ms. Wellington, in the next 10 years, you can still be doing these same things, right? Ms.
Right.
Rainer, when you run into New York again and go run of those races, you can do that now because you have something that works. You're not ravenous, you're not starving. And so for that, we are grateful. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. This episode reminded us that one woman, one step, one truth can shift everything. This is a community effort, a grassroots ripple, and every stitch matters. And so you can join us next Saturday for episode 3 of Knewtritional Knowledge. Here we talk about how false food rules and bad science got us here and how to unlearn to heal. You don't want to miss it. Knewtritional Knowledge, Saturdays at 3:30. Ladies, thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Those for joining.